Right, I hope everybody has joined and you're comfortably seated. We are about to start our webinar. First of all, introductions. My name is Rogelio Menezes. I am a customer success manager for Replicon in EMEA, based in the UK. And with me is Santosh Kumar, who is a senior manager of solution engineering and implementation. And we will go straight ahead. So first of all, the agenda for today, we will be touching two of our largest enhancements, our most recent enhancements to our PSA solution. First of all, the contract modeling and billing workbench, which is aimed to tackle the current challenges with traditional dislodged billing methodologies. We will also ensure complete visibility and stop revenue leakage. And we will have an overview of the product by Santosh. Also, we will be talking about the revenue recognition. We will be giving an overview of the new accountability standards and the challenges they present to industries with the current practice. We will be discussing the revenue management with our enhancement to the PSA solution, and Santosh will also be giving us an overview of the product itself. A few rules before we start the webinar. You all will be on mute during the presentation. There will be a couple of Q&A sessions, one of each at the end of each section of the webinar related to each one of the products. You can submit your questions at any time, though, via the questions text box. This is, or we would like to keep this seminar as interactive as possible, so your participation is very much valued. So please do not refrain in adding any questions. We will be looking at them. If we don't have enough time to do it online, we will get back to you offline with the answers to your questions. But please, your feedback and your questions are very, very valuable for us. So we encourage you to participate in that way. So first of all, let us go over the contract modeling and billing workbench. And chances are that if you're attending this webinar, you will be using some form of complex contract model within your organizations. We would like to run a couple of polls, which will help us understand what is the general type of contract that you are using today and the time it takes you to manage those contracts. Your answers, as I was saying, will be very much appreciated and certainly useful for a better understanding of your needs and the way we conduct the product development in general. So I would ask you to kindly take the time to respond the polls. Each one will take about 30 seconds. And the first one is the following one. What type of contracts do you typically use? First of all, the first question would be simple fixed bid, milestone, time and material contracts. Second would be complex contracts with combinations of fixed bid, milestone, etc. And C, mostly A, sometimes B, or D, mostly complex, sometimes simple. Would you please, organizer, help us launch the poll, the first one? There you go. Thank you. We have 30 seconds. If you kindly take the opportunity to answer the poll, that would be very, very helpful. All right, I think that's the 30 seconds. Couldn't we close the poll now? And let's go about the results. All right, so we have the results ready. So most of you have responded that do mostly simple fixed bid, milestone, time and material contracts with additions on complex contract as well. So followed by simple bid, simple fixed bid milestone time and materials contract. So we have now a clearer view of what the audience is looking to get. Thank you very much for your answers. And now we will proceed with the rest of the webinar, which is our second poll, which would be, what percentage of time do you manually end up editing billing data related to the previous contracts? So again, we would have 30 seconds for you to respond. If you could take the time, we would appreciate it. Organizer, would you please help us launch the poll again now? Thank you. 30 seconds. Okay, we will close the poll now. We'll be seeing the results very, very shortly. So around a third of you have answered that you've spent between 25 and 50% of the time dedicated to billing only dealing with adjustments and additions, followed by another third of you which have responded something between 0 and 25%. So I would say around 30% in average of the time that you're currently spending in dealing with contracts is spent in editing and reviewing billing data. Some of you, 40% of you also responded at 75 and 100%. So that's also very, very significant. Thank you for your answers. We will be definitely aiming to resolve your predicaments with the enhancements that we have at the moment. So let's say, for example, that you're a professional services company with a fixed bid and you have agreed on a contract that says you will get paid 50,000 a month. Your traditional billing rates methodology can probably handle this type of simple contract with fixed bid time materials, as we have seen with the answers of the poll. However, the moment you add another layer of complexity, say that you get paid 50K per month to up to 1,000 hours, after which you would get an additional 100 per hour, is when the traditional systems start to fail. Then we can take another example from billing, right? Imagine the sales team sets up the project with the expectation that they will make a 40% margins. However, as the project progresses, the project manager decides to give 10% discount for a couple of weeks of delay. On top of that, the billing team would probably like to add another 10% discount because they were not able to bill the client on time. So suddenly, from the 30% margins, you're taking away 20% of the margins. As you can see, in both cases, you would end up with a level of complexity that can be quite challenging to handle. This is because all of the requests and the routing were handled outside of the system. So first of all, no one had aggregated visibility into what was happening. And second, there was no way to manage the edits of the billing data in a centralized way. The typical person then who is affected is the billing or the member of the billing and finance teams. So certainly some members of our audience today will definitely know this fairly well. They face a daunting task because now they have to work with multiple sources of information, different systems, and sometimes ad hoc processes to meet these complex contract requirements. It may be the case also that the requests can be delivered by voice, email, or the preferred method on a piece of paper. And it is likely that all of them, along with the discounts, exceptions, and validations, will have to be handled either manually or in Excel. with the operational risks that we all know that implies. Untimely or unauthorized edits, accidental wipeouts, and so on. We all have suffered a shared file nightmare every once in a while, haven't we? So several clients have referred this lack of a true workflow that predictably increases the chance of errors when manual reconciliations or even reissuances of invoices needs to be done. The economic consequences of these are thus real. Manual adjustments increase admin overhead. Billing and finance teams must look at the time data and then decide what contracts need to be applied outside the system, what not, going back and forth with the project and client manager because there is no workflow to help them doing automatically. This becomes a huge task, leading to increased timelines and delayed billing. And yet, it is not only a problem of managing the information pre-billing and the inefficiency of having multiple pairs of eyes looking at the same data sets time and time again. But time, by the way, could be spent better spent elsewhere. So it also represents a risk in terms of revenue. It is a fact that the firms lose money due to inaccurate billing. There is also the other risk of even reputational damage, because let's be honest, who would feel how you feel if a partner of yours billed you their adjustments on a regular basis, right? That triggers another issue with you having to justify and process extraordinary payments and so on. So now, do you share a vision on the impact of having an accurate billing system? To help solve these problems for billing and finance teams, we have taken our existing PSA capabilities around contracts and billings to the next level. With our new contract modeling and billing Workbench capabilities, we have now assimilated these manual processes into the solution to add more value and further streamline the workflow. We have made them part of the seamless environment within Replicon, with all the advantages that it entails. These new capabilities will then help professional services firms manage end-to-end billing with a unified platform, right from applying the contracts to the endpoints where they have to get proper approvals on the billing data that gets invoiced. People can continue to use billing rates for simple contracts, but we can now also configure specific contracts regardless of complexity right into the system. You can easily manage discounts and running approval workflows on billing data. This, of course, increases transparency and auditability significantly and further streamlines the billing operations, thus addressing all of the problems that I have described before. Let me give you a quick example. If a billing amount is under 10K and your process says there are no approvals needed, that can be invoiced straight away. For any billing amount, though, over 10,000K, for example, we can now instantly validate the amount and send it to the finance director or whoever would be assigned for the particular piece of the workflow as needed by the firm for the approval. All this can be easily configured in the system and will happen within seconds, thus dramatically reducing the time that all of the process would otherwise take to be completed. And now, with that context in mind, we would like to see a demo of how it all works within Replicon. So, Santosh, would you please show us through?
Sure. Just waiting for the presenter access. Rohili, can you confirm if you can see my screen?
I can, yes.
Okay, so I just want to quickly start from the project summary screen. Most of you who've already used Replicon must be familiar with the screen. So if you look at it, there's something called as total contract value. This is in addition to what we already had in terms of estimated cost and all those things. We've added this total contract value. I'm just going to quickly walk you guys through what are the basic contracts we have, what are the simple contracts we have within the system today, and what we have built so far. So we have built a few contract models within Replicon for us to be able to cater to any kind of problems that our customers have in terms of billing. So, like Rohile was explaining to us in terms of complex modeling or something like that. So there could be a project where we say it is a time and material project for sure, and in spite of that, I've better negotiated with them, so I get a maintenance fee of probably $1,000 every month, along with my time and material charges. So in today's setup, we cannot model all those things. That's why we have developed this contract models. This is one of the base contract models that we have developed so far. Like you all know that Replicon believes in a platform. So if you look at it, each of these contract models have a platform that you can go ahead and modify, add conditions to it, and do more onto it. Again, if you want to really go ahead and set up your own contract model, which is even more complex than these, you can always go ahead and get it done. In terms of what triggers these contract models, for now, I've set it as a timesheet to be approved for this contract model to be triggered. So I'm going to quickly walk you all through a creation of a project. I've already created some projects, already set a few things up. I just wanted to quickly walk you guys through creating a project. Let's say this project starts on the August 1st and it goes on till September 30th, and it is for client Advantage Technologies. And if you look at it, the older options that we had, fixed bid, time and material, non-billable, are still there. Along with that, we have additional components added to contracts. So I'm just going to click on one of these options and create this project off, and I'm going to show you guys how we can change the attributes within the project. Uh, in our traditional way, we had a billing tab over here. We could only assign either a project rate or a user rate or a role rate. And it's assigned to the user and it's all driven by the user. With this contract model, what we can do is we can add additional contract clause. I'm saying anybody working on this project, I'm going to bill $100, and I can mark up my expenses entered on this project to 1.2, and I get a monthly fixed fee of $1,000 because it's a negotiation that I've done with the client, and I get it on every 10th. I could just save this contract clause. Now, what happens is uh, all of this, the total value on this becomes my total contract value. So that's how it's defined. If I want to add additional clauses, let's say I've negotiated even more better. The client says I'm going to pay you time and material. I'm going to give you a fixed bid monthly rate. Also, when you complete this project as a goodwill, I'm going to give you some additional component or additional money. So I could say once the project is completed, I'm going to get another $10,000. So I could add all of these contract clauses, and based on the time entry done, the time and material will get automatically calculated. The expense markup will automatically get calculated, and when we create an invoice, these additional components will automatically get added onto the contracts of the billing thing, that stuff that we're going to do. I've created some more projects within the system. I'm quickly going to show you those projects. So if you look at it, we always come across the projects which are basically milestone based. So what I've done is I've created a few milestones. I've called design milestone as 1 and build milestone as 2, testing and QA as 3. So let's say we've negotiated a contract that says once you complete milestone 1, I would pay you 30% of the job's work. Once you complete the next 30%, I'll pay you another 50% and stuff like that. So we could go ahead and build all of those within our system. That's how I've defined this. I'm saying that I would get a flat amount on milestone completion. On every milestone I complete, I would get $5,000. Depending on what we want to do, we could go ahead and define these contract values. So this is on the contracts at a high level in terms of what this does. Next thing that Rohile was talking about was in terms of how finance managers struggle today to go ahead and bill our clients and stuff like that, because there's a lot of adjustments that they have to do. So what we have introduced again within Replicon is we have introduced a billing process flow. So again, depending on your industry standard, you could define your own billing process flow. I just defined a simple billing process flow. The difference between a billing process flow and timesheets being approved today, it's very simple. If a timesheet is approved, the finance manager looks at all the timesheets, adds it onto the invoice, and bills the client. With this billing workbench flow, what we could do is we could define our own industry standard acceptable flows. Again, you could set your own workflow. There's no rule that you only have to use it. You could choose your own custom workflow if you want to. I'm just using a two-stage approval flow for now for this demonstration purpose. Let's assume we're all good. We've defined this billing process. What we have additionally added is we have created something called as a billing workbench. It's a very powerful tool. Like I'm sure if you guys have used Replicon for payroll workbench, it's similar to that. It's a very powerful tool that we have developed. So what it does is you can go ahead and say this is how it would look like. I'm saying okay, I want to go ahead and build this advantage technology vendor selection of $3,250. I want to build this data out. This is what I'm doing as a billing manager or a project manager, depending on what abilities I have. Now that is done. So what happens is, if you look at it, each of my data sets is having different status. If you look at it, it's saying open. I'll see why is it open. I'm saying, okay, why is it open? Okay, it's open. Then I have to submit it. Then there's a first stage approval. There's a second stage approval. Then it's finally finalized. That's how it is done. So I'm saying, okay, now I'm done. I'm good with this. I want to go ahead and push this off to finance and get them to bill it. I'm saying I do not want to submit all of these. I only want to submit this. I'm saying finance, please bill $500. So my finance team automatically gets to know that I've bumped this charge up and I could go ahead and submit it. My finance manager would again get an option to approve or reject this line entry item going into the invoice. If he or she feels everything is looking good, they would just approve it. If you look at it, stage 1 approval was there. Now it's gone into stage 2 approval. There could be a second approver. I'm doing it all on one account for keeping in mind the time duration that we have. So if I'm the second level approver, I would again get this list. I would say, okay, looks good to me. I have no issues. I approve it. Then it's finalized. And once it's finalized, you could still continue to use our old invoicing platform to add this onto the invoices. So it could move into the stage of ready to invoicing status. Again, now this is at a high level in terms of what you guys guys can do. Again, if I want to download all of this data and push it directly, I do not want to use Replicon invoicing. Once the approval flow is finalized by the finance manager or the CFO or whoever heads the entire final authority of billing, I could just download this into CSV and push it into my billing system. If I have a financial accounting system, I could just download this into CSV and push it off directly to there for the invoice to be created. At a high level, this is what we have developed in terms of billings and contracts. I'm just going to pass the control back to Rogelio to continue with our second topic. Rogelio, back to you.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you very much. I'm sure the demo has been quite useful for our audience today. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So let's carry on. As you can see, and as Santosh clearly demonstrated, we are taking a completely manual process and automating it further. Billing and finance teams now will see a drastic reduction in admin overhead when managing and applying complex billing rates and contracts. Not only that, there will naturally be a huge decrease in billing errors and the corrections needed. And since approval routing is configurable, they can be managed in real time, improving as well accuracy and traceability. So I'm sure more than one of you has been or has become interested in these features. So if you are looking to start looking at the benefits through your own system, please let us know. These are at the moment available in request within the Replicon PSA solution, and you can contact your CSM, which in Europe may be myself or perhaps Elizabeth Jefferson, to upgrade the solution until the month in case you are already a PSA customer. So right now, I would open the floor for a couple of minutes in case there are a few questions that we will be happy to answer. This again would be on the contract modeling and billing workbench. Remember that you can use the questions box at the side of your webinar interface in case you would like to submit one. If you have none at the moment, we will also be happy to address them after the end of the webinar. Okay, well, seems like we have not received any questions for the contract modeling and billing workbench part. So let us carry on and move on to the revenue recognition enhancements that we are presenting today as well to you all. If you look at current methods of accounting that services businesses use, there are a few issues with them. Every company uses its own method for recognizing revenue, from cash flow to number of completed projects. So it becomes really difficult for auditors and investors to make an apples to apples comparison on how the companies are performing. For that reason, the International Accounting Services Board, IASB, has created a set of standards, namely the IFRS 15 and the ASC 606, to ensure that companies recognize revenue when it is earned. I'm sure you also know that public companies already need to be compliant as of January 2018, and private companies will need to be compliant by January 2019. This then means that everybody at some point will have to follow the same methodology. And as an example, we would like to illustrate it by saying that a company may be working on a 3-year project for which they will be paid in a lump sum. If they're just relying on cash flow to gauge the health of the company, then years 1 and 2 will be really, really bad, while year 3 would look unsustainable and perhaps even unjustifiably good. Then revenue recognition is designed to even out that view and make it consistent across analysis. To better understand your approach to revenue recognition, we would like to again run a couple of polls to understand how are you dealing with the current accountability methods. So the first one would be, the first question would be, how much impact do the new revenue recognition standards have on your business? 3 quick answers. We would give you 30 seconds as before to go over the poll. If you would like to submit your answers, please, the poll is now open. Okay, let's close the poll now. We're going to review the results really quickly. Yes, as we expected it, almost 80% of you mentioned having some sort of impact, with 40% of you mentioning a large impact on the revenue recognition changes for your firm. Unsurprising. And now we will run, if you allow us, we will run a second revenue recognition pool. Quick question: how are you planning to handle the new revenue recognition standards? 30 seconds if you could answer. All right, let's close the poll now and see the opinion of our audience. Okay, almost 2/3 of the audience are not entirely sure how to handle the operational challenges that the new regulations brought with them. Don't worry, we're here for that. Thank you for your answers. We appreciate your input. It's very valuable for us. Thank you, organizer, for opening the polls. So, as we have seen, like billing and contracts, the main challenge right now for revenue teams is that the revenue contracts are handled manually and mostly outside of any system, or Replicon for that matter, with all of the implications that we have seen before. Revenue teams deal with multiple systems and ad hoc processes to meet their requirements. The whole revenue workflow is not informed in real time by the status of projects, whether it's hour-based or cost-based. These can lead to multiple errors again and reworks that might be needed to set up and manage the revenue workflow. And as we also saw before, the economic consequences for revenue teams with manual processes are very significant. Administrators spend too much time ensuring compliance with the new standards and have to work with guesstimates for actual progress, leading them to errors. The best case scenario is that they might find the error and then have to review and redo the whole process. The worst case scenario is that the error is not picked up in time and then come under penalties and consequently tarnish the reputation of the entire organization, which I am sure nobody would like to see happening. Then, to tackle those challenges, Replicon is aiming to mitigate them around revenue recognition by enabling this capability again in our professional services automation solution, which is often the core of most professional services organizations that do business with us. The new capabilities help these professional services firms with end-to-end revenue recognition management from within the platform itself, so they won't have to pull data in and out of the Replicon environment. The out-of-the-box support for IFRS 15 and ASC 606 is based on the percentage of completion method. Services organizations can then easily map out a revenue forecast, make adjustments in real time based on actual data, and complete reconciliation with the contracts, work in progress, and also billing workflows. There is a good reason we have built a revenue recognition system into our PSA solution. For a professional services firm, revenue recognition needs to be close to the core. Many accounting and ERP softwares could provide it, but it definitely makes much more sense for revenue to be handled at the core of a professional services firm, which is typically the professional services automation solution. And again, with that in mind, I would like to ask Santosh to give us a functional overview of the solution I'm going to handle the controls to him. We'll be eager to see your demonstration, Santosh. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Can you confirm if you can see my screen, Rogelio? Can you see my screen?
I can see it. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. So I just want to start from the same flow that I did for the billing contracts and billing workbench. So in addition to total contract value, we've also added the recognized revenue for all dates and available to recognized revenue column also within the project summary screen. So this is an easy indication for all the C-level people or the project managers to understand how their project is doing. If I'm looking at this one screen snapshot over here, it tells me what is my total contract value, what is the hours that I've spent on it, what is the cost for me to spending these many hours, what is my billing, and what is the revenue that I've recognized, what is available for me to be recognized. Again, similar workflow defined for revenue recognition. Again, Replicon believes in building a platform to cater to our customer solution rather than just building a prototype. So again, we have created some revenue contract clause. This is purely based on what industry standards follow today. So revenue recognition is basically on percentage of completion. This is either on money or on hours spent on the project. So that's one clause that we have created as an out-of-the-box solution. If we want to have additional clause, like I said, for the billing workflow, you could customize your own revenue clause also. Similar flow, when you add a project, you would get to choose the revenue contract type. You could just go say percentage complete. So as always, we also have introduced the additional tab. We always only saw the billing contracts tab. Now we also have the revenue tab. It basically tells you what revenue clauses do you have. Again, you can add multiple clauses to this depending on the complexity of the revenue recognition process you have. We have the ability to do it. So as of now, we have built an industry standard clause that says percentage of completion. Based on the percentage of completion, it will tell you how much revenue you can recognize month on month or quarter on quarter or depending on what date ranges you want to run it. So how do I do it? Again, under the billing tab, we have introduced the revenue workbench. It's a pretty neat, simple revenue workbench. It's basically for us to understand. Let's assume most companies do revenue recognition on first of every month to understand what's really happening. But there are companies who do revenue recognition every quarter. There are companies who do revenue recognitions for every project in a different fashion or a client in a different fashion. That's why we have the ability to run revenue recognition for all three metrics. You could choose a date. You could say every month first I want to understand what is the revenue that I'll be able to recognize from my client projects that I worked on. You could click on refresh. It would list out all the data that you could add, and you could just go ahead and click on create revenue runs. What it would do is it would create a revenue run and it will store it in the system like this. It would be in draft status or completed status, or if I want to mark this as complete, I could go ahead and mark this as complete, or I could just download this and store it in my books saying, okay, this is the revenue that I've recognized for this specific month. Now, in addition to this, I just want to quickly touch base on our reports. Now, whatever we saw in our demo today at a high level in terms of revenue contracts, billing contracts, and in terms of the billing workbench, all of those data can be reported in our standard reporting engine. All of those, we have created some of the revenue recognition reports already with out of the box configuration. Like you always know that Replicon's reports are highly configurable. You could just click on add new report and you could create one for yourself. So these are the topics that I wanted to quickly cover on the revenue recognition side. I'm going to pass the control on to Rogelio to see if you guys have any additional questions. Rogelio, back to you.
Thank you, Santosh. Can you see the demo screen now?
Yeah, yes, I can.
Good. Thank you again. Very, very useful. I'm sure now our audience have a much clearer understanding of how we're addressing the solution. As we have seen then, with the unified system and platform approach, Replicon provides flexibility, visibility, and out-of-the-box compliance. The streamlined process reduces admin overhead for revenue teams, and with a platform-based model, Replicon is able to offer advanced flexibility and configurability to map out revenues in a compliant manner, while also ensuring business process needs are fully met. As before, if you are interested in enjoying these features, we can certainly help you accomplish that. They are available on request within the PSA solution. You can talk to either myself, or if you have another customer success manager, to have that enabled into your current PSA solution if you have it. And if you are interested in upgrading to the PSA product after these 2 significant enhancements, please let us know and we will be happy to address them as well. With that, we would like to conclude. As you can see, our newest enhancements integrate organically with the rest of the features of our complete solution. This implies a single source of truth that serves different parts of the organization without hassle, in real time, and with interfaces tailored to each specific workflow. And also with the distinctive ability to leverage advanced mobile, artificial intelligence, and machine learning technologies through our time intelligence approach. Thus, we are confident that this gives Replicon a unique position to effectively address your company's multiple operational needs. If you want a personalized demo of some of these features, please reach out to us at sales@replicon.com. We will send out the recording and some more material post the webinar. So please stay tuned. Get time intelligent with Replicon now. It was great talking to you. Thank you, Santosh, for your valuable demonstrations, and have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you. My name is Rogelio Meneses, and I'm a customer success manager. Thank you. Bye.